Now, if it's the real deal, it won't be anything like the first time Sterling has said something or done something that smacks of bigotry. It may, however, be the last straw. Over the weekend, some of the biggest names in sports, politics, and entertainment began unloading on him. Last night, his players launched a protest on court on national TV. Today, big advertisers took a giant step away from him. Tomorrow, the league could announce sanctions. In a moment, we'll have exclusive reaction from Spike Lee. But first, how we got here. Take a look.
It didn't take long for the audio to explode. Listen once and you know why.
People call you and tell you that I have black people on my Instagram, and it bothers you.
Yeah, it bothers me a lot that you want to broadcast that you're associating with black people. You don't have to.
You associate with black people.
I'm not you and you're not me. You're supposed to be a delicate white or a delicate Latina girl.
By now, you likely know the male voice is allegedly Donald Sterling. In a conversation with his girlfriend, who is almost a half-century his junior, named V. Stiviano, comments that he appeared to not know were recorded.
Well, then, if you don't feel it, don't come to my games. Don't bring black people and don't come.
Do you know that you have a whole team that's black that plays for you?
Do I know? I support them and give them food and clothes and cars and houses. Who gives it to them? Does someone else give it to them? Do I know that I have? Who makes the game? Do I make the game or do they make the game? And these are 30 owners that created the league?
This is how the Clippers dealt with all of this before Sunday's playoff game in Oakland against the Golden State Warriors. They took off their warm-up shirts, left them in a pile, and wore their shooting T-shirts inside out so the team name could not be seen. Sterling was not at Sunday's playoff game. His estranged wife, Rochelle, was. She has filed a lawsuit against the mistress, Stiviano, accusing her in part of being a gold digger. Stiviano and Sterling have been seen together during other games. In the recorded tape, the discussion turns to former Los Angeles Laker legend Magic Johnson, who Stiviano says she admires.
He happens to be black, and I'm sorry.
I think it's nice that you admire him. I know him well, and he should be admired. And I'm just saying that it's too bad you can't admire him privately. And during your entire life, your whole life, admire him. Bring him here, feed him, him. I don't care. You can do anything. But don't put him on this event for the world has to see, so they have to call me. And don't bring him into my game, okay?
Magic Johnson says the comments make him hurt, but not just for himself.
I think that all of us are outraged. We're all upset who are African Americans because if you're going to be like this, why are you owning a team in the NBA, which, is over 70% African American basketball players? So I think he should step down.
The head coach of the Clippers, Doc Rivers, says his boss reached out to him, but he declined to speak with Sterling.
I would just like to reiterate how disappointed I am in our in the comments attributed to our owner, and I can't tell you how upset I am. Our players are.
Other NBA owners have largely stayed silent, but former basketball great and current Charlotte Bobcat owner Michael Jordan did speak out, issuing a statement saying in part, "I am appalled that this type of ignorance still exists within our country and at the highest levels of our sport." What's next is anyone's guess. The league likely can't force Sterling out, but already the advertising community is having its say. 5 major sponsors pulled out today, costing the team millions of dollars. The Clippers' next playoff game is Tuesday night. The NBA Players Association has demanded he be barred from that and all remaining playoff games. Gary Tuckman, CNN, Atlanta.
Hurt him in the pocket.
In addition to Magic Johnson, President Obama has condemned Sterling for making, quote, incredibly racist statements. That's a quote. So has Charlotte Bobcats owner Michael Jordan and LeBron James. As Gary mentioned, advertisers are distancing themselves. CarMax and Virgin America have cut ties with the team. Several others, including State Farm Insurance, have put their relationship on hold. Filmmaker Spike Lee famously has a relationship with the New York Knicks, not the Clippers. He joins us, though, obviously, as far more than just a fan of the game. First of all, when you first heard these remarks, what went through your mind?
I said, why did it take so long? Let me tell you a story. I've never said this before. My right hand to God on my mother's grave. In Los Angeles, 2011, the NBA All-Star game was there. Me and my friend, I'm not going to name him, we were at a restaurant, and Donald Sterling called us over to his table. His wife, Shelley, was there. And he started to say, why are they going to go on strike? we should pay all the players $500,000. If they didn't play basketball, they wouldn't have a job. I swear to God he said this. And Baron Davis, who played for the Clippers, is my second cousin. So he's told me a whole lot of stuff about Sterling. Then you look at the Elton Baylor, the highest settlement in history.
Right. He was sued for racial discrimination in housing. He settled the largest fine ever in the history of housing discrimination.
So tomorrow's a big day. The new commissioner, Adam Silver, they're having a press conference here in New York at 2 p.m. I'm going to be there.
You're going to go to it?
I'm going to go to it. And a whole lot of people.
You know this new commissioner.
Oh, Adam, I've known Adam a long time. He's for long at David Stern, but I know he's a good guy.
What do you think he should do?
He has. I don't know. I don't know the bylaws of the league, but he has to go.
He shouldn't. This guy Donald Sterling should not own.
He's got to go
a team
because he's tainting all the other 29 partners. He's tainting the league and he's tainting America. And when you hear something like that, that is the mentality of a slave master. He sees his players as slaves.
He feeds them. He
works
them.
And then I want to come what Magic said. Well, people say, not just Magic, people say, well, doesn't he know that all his players are black? Yeah, he knows that. Magic knew that too. We're out there in the cotton fields and whatnot working. So he has to go. And I would like to see, even though the league is 75% African American, I think this is outside from Dirk Nowitzki, I really never heard from the white players.
You think this should be an issue that white players speak out about, not just
Everybody.
African American players?
Everybody. If you are
not associated with him.
Justice for all. Whatever.
If you don't side with him, speak.
Sex, whatever. This is a front to everybody.
For you to speak as well.
Outraged as
anyone who says silent is as guilty.
The Clippers, taking off their practice jerseys. I mean, they're
I know all those guys. I know Doc, Chris Paul, Jamal Crawford is here with the Knicks. Those guys in tough spot, and I would have loved to have been a fly in the room at that meeting they had,
trying to figure out how they.
I'd like to know how was it really a reality that they might have boycotted that game? But right now it's symbolism, and symbolism can be great. We saw symbolism with Tommy Smith and John Carlos with the Black Fist at the 6-8 Olympics in Mexico, and other players last night. The late game, Portland and Houston, they wore black socks, but we need something stronger. And I think this is a moment in history where, particularly these African American athletes, have to step up.
They got to do more than what they do.
In my opinion. Of course, I'm not in their shoes, but I know what Doc is saying. They've worked all their lives. They've had this dream since they were a kid of winning an NBA championship. You know what?
The coach has also said that, if they keep winning, then this is going to keep more in the public eye, in the public consciousness.
I know Doc. He's in a tough space. And I watched the game yesterday, and even though Doc and the players won't admit it, that thing is effective. They were behind 20 points in the first quarter. They came back, but they're shook, and it's not their fault.
It's interesting, though, because this is an incident which, we heard it from Michael Jordan, who, in the past has not been the most outspoken.
Michael stepped up.
Yeah.
People will wait for Michael. He's the only African American. I know you might say Will or some other people have been little pieces of their NBA teams. Michael owns the Bobcats, and people waiting on Mike, and he came through. That was a huge for Michael Jordan to make the statement he did.
I've heard from a lot of people who said that, under the bylaws, maybe there's nothing the commissioner can directly do, but that the other owners can basically go to this guy and say, look, you gotta cash in. I mean, you bought this team for $12 million. You can sell it. You're going to make hundreds of millions of dollars.
You can make a huge profit. I know people line up now. I don't know personally, but I would assume that people line up now
to buy
that franchise. You're in this second biggest market. The team is great on the verge of winning. NBA championship. But can I just say this? Kobe said it. He would play for them. They are not going to be able to get any. Who's going to want to play for this guy?
Right, why would a free agent go to that team?
Who's going to want to play for this guy?
Does anything matter? I mean, is there any, there's some people commented, well, maybe the tape is edited, or maybe, the woman has no ulterior motive.
Why hasn't he denied it?
Right, well, yeah, and he is not
Look,
denying it.
I'm a filmmaker. Nobody acts that good. that was
acting, and that wasn't
not
acting?
any skullduggery, any malarkey. that was no okey doke. That was the real. Now she set him up. It looks like that, but no one cares about that.
Right.
That was him, unfiltered, and
Unedited.
he got caught
Raw.
He's been saying this stuff for years, for 30 years.
It's also always fascinating to me that nobody ever says, yeah, I'm a racist. No one, even the people who say the most outrageous things never just say, yeah, this is what I feel. They always say, no, I love black people or whatever. But
yeah, they come out and run
say,
up and down the court and dunk them for me, making me money.
But I don't want you to be photographed with them or seen with them or bring them to my games. I mean, it's
racism is an illness. And as you know, being who you are, it's always bubbling under the surface. So it takes the OJ or Trayvon Martin and then just explodes. But it's always
it's also
right
easy
under the surface.
It's also when you hear somebody saying this stuff, it's easy to identify. There are structural forms of racism in this country which are much harder.
Institutional racism, where you can't vote, you can't do this, you can't do that.
And that's a lot harder for people to kind of see and point to and I'll get behind. This is sort of something where you say, obviously, look,
it's in your
what
face.
this guy said is reprehensible.
I'm glad that even though I don't really care about how the thing was obtained, who's trying to make money, he got outed. This is who he is. It's been like this for 30 years. And for people to say, well, alleged this stuff, we got to have a picture with him on a robe and a hood and hold a burning cross? Is that what it's going to take to make people understand who this vile individual is? He got to go. He's got to go.
Spike Lee, it's good to have you on.
And if I was a season ticket holder of the Clippers,
you wouldn't go.
But I would not be at that game tomorrow night in the Staples Center.
You think it's important to send a message?
It's very important. I mean, we're talking this stuff. Again, I think that I know you got to go. I know you got time. But we're never going to be the great country we could be until we deal with racism. We got to deal with it. Honestly. Even though it may hurt people, we have to deal with this and we can move on and be the already the greatest country in the world, but you know what I'm talking about.
Even better. Spike Lee.
Thank you.
Always. And as always, you can find more on the story and others on CNN.com.
He's not
We're
an
gonna get more on
articulate
Donald Sterling's tarnished history, what he said in the past, what he allegedly said now, and what he's paid to settle a massive federal discrimination lawsuit. We're going to look at that closer. Later, we'll update you on the second straight day of deadly weather in the South, some of the heavy weather hitting the Nashville, Tennessee area. Elsewhere, the death toll is climbing. $1 to settle a federal housing discrimination lawsuit, which was neither the first such lawsuit nor the first or last allegation of blatantly racist remarks. Randy Kay investigates.
This is how Clippers owner Donald Sterling tried to show he cares about minorities. An ad in the Los Angeles Times from 2011, celebrating Black History Month. Trouble is, the event is slated for March 2nd. Black History Month is February. The event was designed to raise funds for underprivileged children.
Nobody ever quite figured out how the Clippers were going to screen kids who were coming to the games for their privilege level, unless everybody who showed up who was black was supposed to be underprivileged.
Sterling's strained relationship with minorities started long before that. In 2003, when 19 tenants sued Sterling for discrimination, he was quoted by an employee explaining why a housing unit Sterling owned had an odor. His explanation, according to ESPN's Peter Keating, was, quote, "That's because of all the blacks in this building. They smell. They're not clean." Later, in 2006, the U.S. Department of Justice sued the Clippers owner for housing discrimination. at his rental apartments. According to the lawsuit, Sterling and his wife made statements indicating that African Americans and Hispanics were not desirable tenants.
We allege that they did not receive the apartments that they applied for because of their racial background.
In 2009, Sterling settled the lawsuit, agreeing to pay victims nearly $3 million. That same year, All-Star basketball legend Elgin Baylor took his former boss to court, claiming he was fired as Clippers general manager because of his age and his race. Baylor not only accused Sterling of paying him significantly less because he's black, but also claimed Sterling wanted the team to be composed of poor black kids from the South and a white head coach, similar to a Southern plantation. He said Sterling told him repeatedly he was, quote, giving these poor black kids an opportunity to make a lot of money. In court, Baylor also claimed Sterling brought women into the locker room while players were showering, allegedly commenting, "Look at those beautiful black bodies." A jury later rejected Baylor's lawsuit. Yet despite all of that, in 2009, the NAACP in Los Angeles honored Sterling with the Lifetime Achievement Award. The president of the LA chapter of the civil rights group tried to justify it by revealing that Sterling gives as many as 3,000 tickets to youth groups for nearly every Clippers home game. Next month, Sterling was set to receive another Lifetime Achievement Award from the NAACP, but the group now says it will no longer give him that award. Sterling likes awards, so much so he takes out big newspaper ads congratulating himself. In one such ad, published in 2006 in the LA Times, Sterling also pledged $50 million toward a state-of-the-art homeless project for families. 8 years later, it has yet to be built. Randy Kay, CNN, New York.
Well, the question now, what exactly can the NBA do about all this? What will the league announce tomorrow? TNT Sports, Kenny Smith won 2 NBA championships with the Houston Rockets and joins us along with senior legal analyst Jeffrey Toobin.
Yes, I was surprised. I was shocked. I was appalled. I was angered. All of those emotions went through because, I always say that racism is a refuge for ignorance. And it really was able to see the ignorance that at times you think have gone away in a modern-day society that are still apparent and still prevalent.
Is there anything that can happen other than he being suspended? He has to be suspended, doesn't he?
Well, I think, the first thing is the due process to make sure that that actually was him. And I think that the NBA is making sure that all of those things, it wasn't edited in any transcript way to kind of make him in a different light. And if that's the case, the second thing is, yes, you can be suspended. You can be removed from your daily operations. I mean, we have labor laws in the United States that people have to follow.
Jeff, for you, I mean, is it simple that the guy's got to go?
Oh, he's not just going to get suspended and fined. He's gone. He is not going to be the owner of this team in the immediately foreseeable future. It's true that Adam Silver, the commissioner, doesn't have the explicit power to force him to sell, but this is a league, thanks to David Stern, with a very powerful commissioner. There are other owners involved. He cannot stay the owner of this team, and he will be gone sooner rather than later.
Well, I mean, if they can't force him out, then how can he be so sure? How can he be so sure he'll be gone?
Well, he's 80 years old. He's going to be suspended. He can't show up at his own games, presumably after he's suspended. He'll have a significant fine, not necessarily from the commissioner, but his fellow owners will go to him and say, look, do you want to fight this in court for your remaining days? Or do you want to take your $12 million investment, sell it for $600, and live the rest of your life happily? I just think...
$600 million.
$600 million, yeah. I mean, there is no way that this league is going to sit still for a guy like this still owning the team. It just can't happen.
Kenny, what do you make of the players' decision about how they handled this to continue playing?
Well, I think that there's a lot of different ways you can handle it. I wish it would have been a little bit more strongly in terms of their input. I would love to hear what each of the players represent the Clippers think, the Chris Pauls, the Blake Griffin. Because when you think of the Clippers, you don't think of Donald Sterling. You think of those players. So having them voice their opinion, and I think you have an obligation when you're in this position to speak out and to let us know what you're thinking and to make a change. And I think they can do that.
Jeff, does any of the backstory to this tape matter? I mean, the motives of the woman involved, whether or not there was some sort of editing involved. I mean, is the bottom line, as long as it was his voice, that's all that matters?
Well, you mentioned editing. I mean, if somehow this tape has been edited to distort the meaning, that could have an impact. But remember, you know, the Clippers have already made a statement, and the statement was not, "That's not me on the tape." And as long as that's him on the tape, and as they have also not said it was edited in some misleading way, it doesn't matter if she potentially broke some law about wiretapping. It doesn't matter if she's not a good person or if they're in litigation. All that matters is what he said and what it means to the larger community. And there's just no excuse. You can't have an owner of any professional sports team, much less one with predominantly African-American players, who expresses views like this. It will not be tolerated. By the way, they're already losing sponsors. I mean, can you imagine a free agent at this point choosing to go to the Clippers if Sterling is still owning the team? I mean, it just can't happen.
Kenny, the picture that reportedly sparked this racist tirade by this guy from Donald Sterling, or allegedly from Donald Sterling, is this picture of Sterling's girlfriend with Magic Johnson. Johnson appears often on your show, I know. Have you talked to him about this at all?
No, I haven't talked to Magic, and it really doesn't matter, honestly, because the one thing that you see in this whole transgression is that you have a person who's been in power for 30 years and made billions of dollars off the state, the people of California, basically, through real estate and through basketball, who have operated in a prejudicial manner. So, of course, he needs to be out of power in terms of where he is. There's no other way around it. There's been smoke, but now the fire has come.
I know Magic Johnson over the weekend talked about saying that he'd never go to another Clippers game as long as Sterling is the team's owner. Do you think people should boycott the game?
I think that's your personal preference, because there are people that people support that I wouldn't support. That's your own prerogative. You have the right to protest. You have the right to picket. You have the right to not go to a game.
Would you want to go to a Clippers game?
That's your individual morality. For me, I would never be in a Clipper game if I was as long as he is the owner, as Kenny Smith. I would never go to a Clipper game. No.
Kenny, it's great to have you on the program. Jeff Toobin as well.
Thank you.